You know who this is. This is Daycee Dwindt, and she is an AIM student and has gone on some adventures and did some things for the Lord with a group of folks. And she is here today to tell us about that. So let's give her all the attention we possibly can, because she comes from a long way.
Thank you guys for having me. So I first wanted to tell you a little bit about what AIM is, because maybe some of you don't know. It's based out of Lubbock, Texas. It's a 2-year missions program, and you go and you do very in-depth studies of the Bible, and midway through you get put on teams, and then you're given a location that you'll go to. And there's stateside fields, and then there's fields that are in Brazil or in different countries. And at the end of your time, then you have a month to go home and just kind of prepare to fly out or go wherever you're going to go. And then you stay there for about a year to a year and a half, and then you're done. And so I finished my time, but I didn't have the same location the whole time. So I'm going to kind of explain to you the different mission fields I ended up going on. I would say my initial team was a team of 5, and we were Team Brazil, and it was really exciting. But let's see. The first place I would call my mission field was Hutchinson, Kansas, which is my hometown. So it was a little funny, but whenever you're going to Brazil or somewhere, you have to get a visa. It takes a little while. So we were kind of in that process of just waiting to hear back from the consulate, and it was taking a few months. And so I was just like, okay, let's just get started now, because anywhere can be a mission field. So the first thing I did was a college Bible study. This is a picture of just a few of us. You probably recognize, actually, Lainey she's a church camp person, and she got to come one time, but it was about 7 girls I had targeted that were past friends from Salina here, going to HCC there, or just that were in Hutchinson that I'd known before. And I thought about what could I do the study on, and I decided to do it over the life of Christ. So it's through Luke, and I just thought if they can fall in love with Jesus, then maybe this can be a good way to, when they're reading the Bible, and just be more connected to it and want to hear more of what God has to say. So we did that while I was there, and it was awesome. Another thing, I got to help at Silver Maple Camp, which I'm sure some of you guys know about. It's a wonderful camp in there. I just tried to focus on just spreading the word about AIM to the kids, especially at second session where they're high school age, and also just questioning them and asking them if they had questions about God, or if they just wanted to talk about God. And it was really cool just hearing all the little things that they would say and stuff, because it's easy to go and maybe miss the opportunity with all these youth that never maybe get to talk about their faith and stuff. And if they've got a bunch of questions, that maybe you can answer them. And so it was really, really powerful experience. And then I got to help with some tornado disaster relief with my dad in Andover. We cleared out this space, and we were just there's just stuff everywhere. It was really, really bad, but we got to help out with that for a little bit. And also, I got the privilege to support some of the youth at Eastwood Church of Christ, so they would have a track meet or soccer, and I just try and go and be there for them. So during that time, it was wonderful. And then I had a couple of there was 3 of our teammates that actually got their visas, and so they were able to go off to Brazil, which was our field. But for some reason, Gabe and I were not able to get our visas. So there was they required a new thing that they never had before, and it was really tricky to try and figure out how to get. So in the meantime, our 3 people got to go off to Brazil. We went to Lubbock, Texas. So our main administrator guy from AIM, he invited us to come help in Lubbock. So there was a new AIM class there that was after us, and he just invited us to be alongside them, and we really tried to focus on just guiding them and investing into each of them. We weren't assistants, so we didn't have to tattletale on everything they did and stuff, but we really just tried, because they're kind of a rowdy bunch, but they're very lovable, and we just try to be there. And like I would go to the gym with this one girl, and she'd just tell me about things she's struggling with, or go on coffee dates with them, anything, like if they're studying with homework, just be there to help them out, encourage them, like, hey, I was through this, you know, like I know you can do it too. And then we got to do some things with helping with the AIM faculty. So like we have a bunch of flags that I like ironed out and just did kind of tasks like that, or just any ways that we could help the AIM faculty. And then they have this thing called area churches. So when you're in Lubbock for that 8 months, you're doing all kinds of stuff, like you're having all this classwork, but they also have you going to individual churches. And when you're there, it's like every Sunday you go back to the church and you help with service projects and getting to know the families, and you go to eat with them at their homes, and you just do whatever you can to get connected, maybe helping out in the kids' classes, or the boys will help lead songs and do all kinds of stuff like that. And so Dave and I got to go and help them with that, so service projects and just meeting members and trying to make them have a better day and connecting with them. And this is just different pictures of me with some of those aimers. So then, Gabe and I got the opportunity. So in Lubbock, we kind of came down to the conclusion that we could either go to Brazil as tourists and hope in 6 months we could somehow figure out this last thing we needed to get our visa and stay, or we would just have to leave our teammates behind in the field that was given to us and find a new one. And so it was a really hard decision, but we decided, okay, let's try a leap of faith. Let's go to Brazil and just see what happens. So when we went, there was a lot of amazing things that we did. One thing was campaigns. In Brazil, they're is specifically João Pessoa, Brazil. And this is my coordinator. This is Hanyeti and his wife Jessica and their 2 sons. And so when you're sent somewhere, there's a mission family there already, and they're kind of your guides, and you like they just help you along the way to do different missionary work and stuff. But they were very mission minded there, or evangelistic, and they did some campaigns. So the first thing was a door knocking campaign where you're just going around and you're inviting, like we had a specific worship set up that we were inviting them to, and just trying to like, hey, you want to talk about God with us, or do you have prayer requests or anything? And they're a lot more welcoming than you might find in the States. So you'd walk in and they would like serve you with some coffee or some like crackers or something, and they would make sure that like they weren't sitting, you were the one sitting, and they were very willing to hear you out, even if like they aren't involved in the church or anything. And I thought that was super cool how hospitable they were and stuff. And then there was like this campaign, and I thought that was kind of unique because when we say like a church camp here, usually it's like a week and you go out of town and you like are all together, and then like through that you have a cool spiritual experience. But what they did here was we stayed in João Pessoa at their church, and there was like we all stayed in the church overnights and stuff, and we would have lunches and sing there and stuff. But the main focus was doing this little campaign, and so they could get involved with like evangelism while they were still young, and just like experiencing meeting people and inviting them to this event we had. And that it proved to be very impactful for all of them. And like we did a thing where it was feet washing and like back massages, and it was right on the beach where it was like the ocean and then sand and stuff, and then there's this huge sidewalk that went forever, and people would bike down it and run down it all the time. It was like super populated, and there's restaurants and stuff, and that's where we set up. And we had a lot of homeless people coming up to us, and then also just people that were there that would come, and it's just a very humbling experience, like getting to do that for someone, and for them having it done, having their feet washed, and just talking to them and serving them in that way. And then there was a prayer campaign where we just went around and like at huge parks with people everywhere, just like asking people if they had any prayers, or just down the streets and stuff. And usually, like I don't think anyone usually turns down a prayer. and it brings them a peace, and if you can just give them something about God, it's usually really impactful. We're also active in the church, so we would do like meeting with members. We'd go and it's a lot different of an experience whenever you're not just sitting in the church pew and like saying hi to them like every week. It's a very personal connection we would get to build with them, because we'd go and we'd laugh, we'd have food, maybe we'd bring stuff, play games and stuff. Also, we were speaking in Portuguese and we didn't really have anyone help us there, so it's a really good way for us to take that leap and start really learning Portuguese. And those were always so special, because then you can walk in and you're like, hey, we're already deeper friends, and just trying to build the church up that way. Then we would do kids classes, so us girls would get to go help with the babies class, or 8-year-old class and stuff, and the boys would usually help with leading a prayer or something like that, especially in the beginnings when we're still learning Portuguese. And I just remember the babies class, the words that they were teaching the babies were words that I was learning, and I was just it was very humbling. But then there's the youth events. It's kind of just a tiny bit, but that's okay. We would help design the youth events every week, and so we were really trying to just get to know them and spend time with them. We play volleyball on the beach or something, and have a short devo, and we try to go in places where other people might see and hear, so it was more kind of they had this evangelism way behind it. It was really cool how they had they just always had that on their mind there. It wasn't this private thing we hid, and then we did women's studies and events at the church. One thing that sticks out to me was they have a kids day, and we got to help. Gabe and I specifically led all the games, and then there was singing activities and stuff that some of the others of our team helped with, but I got to lead them, and I spoke all in Portuguese, so it was kind of a big transition from learning just what the babies are learning to compared to actually leading stuff in Portuguese and having fun with the kids. They're middle school age. And then also they have this thing called Ame, and that sounds a lot like AIM, because it's basically the Brazilian version of AIM, and it's all in that same church that we were working with in João Pessoa. And they were so special. They were going through their classes and stuff that we already had, and then they'll be sent out to different parts of South America and stuff after. But they were just so servant-hearted, and I remember there was a few that knew English well, and they helped me out so much. And I really appreciated them, and they always were really cool with campaigns and stuff. We'd go, and it's kind of intimidating when you're first learning the language and you're having to just go up to people and say these things and invite them, but the Ame students were always there to help us with the language stuff too. Then there was a thing called Day Night at Carlos's, and Carlos is a guy from the church that he just decided to do this for his neighborhood, and his neighborhood had a bunch of kids. They're not, it's more of a poor neighborhood, a little bit, but he just invited them to come, and then he's like, hey, I got these Americans that are here, and that they'll be there, and it kind of maybe attracted them, I don't know. And we would bring a bunch of snacks, and it was just always a fun time. I didn't know all the things they said sometimes because they had so much slang and stuff, but all I knew was we were connecting through games and laughing and having a good time. And then we slowly transitioned into our boys started leading little devos in between. So it was we had them, we had that connection, and then we bring God into it a little bit. And it was so much fun with them. Soccer ministry, I would say that was my absolute favorite from Brazil. So when Gabe and I got there and we joined our team finally after that time where we had been in Lubbock, we were we want to make a soccer ministry somehow. So we started up every Wednesday. We would have play soccer, and then we'd bring a bunch of fruit and stuff, cut it up, have snacks, and then Gabe would lead a devotional. And props to him because he was was doing all in Portuguese and everything. So we're really excited when we started. And the first day, we had no one come, and it was like very disappointing. But then the next week, we had a few come in, and it just slowly kept building, and we were having a great time, because it doesn't even matter if it's just one person that shows up. Like, that impact on that one time or something can mean so much to them that it's like, why be down if it's just a couple people? Because it's like you're telling them about God, and that's all that matters, you know, and you're connecting with them. But it ended up growing to about 30 people, which was really cool. And half of them, I would say, were from our church, and then the other half were from outside of the church, that we had met some people, and they would invite their friends, and it would build that way. And something we thought too that would be cool is it was like the courtyard next to our church, and then we would like go inside to eat. And it was just a way to make them more comfortable at the church, because sometimes people can kind of be intimidated of the church. So we just wanted them to feel more comfortable, and also automatically already have some friends that they had met through soccer and stuff, so they could walk in and know people. So they would have a really good transition if they wanted to come to Sundays. So that was awesome. And then meeting the neighbors, I put juggling, but it's not like this. Like, I was juggling with my soccer ball. And it was just like I would feel bored or something in our apartment complex, and it was so tiny out there and cramped. I would just go down to where the parking lot was, and I would start juggling my soccer ball. And at the same time, I thought, okay, this is a good place where I can maybe meet my neighbors. And we met like that. It really worked for me. Like, I made cool little connections with the different people. And there was one specific one that was really cool, that him and his son were going, and they're like trying to bring groceries to their apartment, and I ended up just striking up a conversation with them. It was going really well, and then he invited me to like his birthday, and so I said yes, and I told my team, like, hey guys, like our neighbor invited me to his birthday, like let's go. And so we went in, and we thought it would just like be their family and stuff. And we were meeting them, and then all of a sudden, like, one guy about 18 to 20 years old, like, strolls out of a room, and I was like, oh, cool, like, there's another potential, like, youth opportunity. And then it was like another person came out, and then another, and there was like 6 or 7 different guys that were around like 17 to 20 something. And we're like in the back of my mind, like, yes, like, there's so many opportunities right now. Thank you, God. And we had like a great time that night, and they're like, you should come play volleyball with us on a Friday, and like we do it every Friday. We're like, totally, let's do it. So we started going, and it was just like that thing where you're just building a friendship, and you're going to something that they invited you to, and it was so much fun. It's not like it was some task. And then we're like, hey, well, since you guys are like, we're doing this, would you want to come to our soccer thing that we got going on Wednesdays? And so this big group of guys, they said yes, and most of them didn't have any connection with the church, and one was like an atheist and stuff. And they started coming, and during the devos, when Gabe would like be talking and stuff, they would be the ones asking questions and like being really invested. And it was so cool seeing like how much interest they had, and how we were able to get them there just by just taking that time to be with them and play with them and stuff. And then we did a kids English night, so that was like us girls specifically went to, and it was in this little neighborhood, and there was about 10 or so kids, sometimes it was 20, that would come, and it would be like songs I remember from camp that she would like teach these little kids, and they'd be singing it in English, and we'd get to help lead with that, or they would like read a story in English, but it was all kind of Bible based, but it was in English, and so we got to help with that. It was wonderful. And then I got 2 English classes started. There was 3 that I had met this photographer, but ours didn't last super long. But 2 girls, so one, her name was Terza, and I think she was actually Catholic based, but we were going through Romans, and she was just like, she's very good at English, so we were more like reading through it, and I would correct her if she messed up, but it was just very, like, every time it's so encouraging, so powerful, and we always usually agreed on stuff. And it's funny because it's like, I don't know, there's a lot that if you're just delving into the word, that it starts kind of like, yeah, I don't know, like you start connecting with them through that way, and it's really cool. And then Alani, she was, I think she was Baptist and stuff, but we would just do like, I would have a Bible verse every time, and then go through just basic words and stuff, and then we would talk about it in English and Portuguese. And those were always really powerful too. And Let's Start Talking, I don't know if you guys have heard of that before, but it's really like helpful just whenever you go to another country. I think you kind of have a big advantage. It's really cool doing ministry there because a lot of people want to learn English, and so then it's perfect. Literally, you just teach it out of the Bible, so then they're learning about God and English at the same time, and so it's very attractive to them to learn. So here's some pictures. The stuff we did. These are all from different campaigns. So this was the church camp one. It was like when we were door knocking, we also went and visited people that had been by themselves during COVID for a long time. So she was just absolutely, like, a lot of them were very moved because we would just sing and it'd fill the room and we would have a little talk. And they just hadn't had the people exposure in so long. So it meant so much to them. We were singing in parks a lot, and that would draw a lot of crowds of people just like, what are these people singing about God and stuff? There's Americans up there. And that was always really cool. This guy, there's a cute little girl too, but I met them on the first campaign, and I had learned a song in my Portuguese classes, and they like really liked it. It was popular, and so I was playing it on my phone, and we were just like singing, we're having a good time on the campaign. And this is also us like door knocking in person, just like inviting us into their home. That is Christmas caroling. We decided to Christmas carol, which is not normal for them, but we went down our whole block Christmas caroling. And I remember there was like neighbors that after we sang for them, they're like, hold on, I gotta go get my other person. I gotta like have them hear you. Hold on. And then they're like, hey, you sound like angels. Like, you guys are amazing. And we met this one couple that it was these two specifically, and they had moved in a few years ago and just never felt like anyone brought them in, like they never felt welcomed. And then they just like said, hey, if you ever need anything, like let us know. And I feel like so many times God just kind of put people in our hands because we're like, of course, like, yeah. So we started going over and eating with them, and then they had a pool, and they had a son that was like fluent English. And one day we just spent a whole day like swimming with him and just talking about him, just hearing everything about him, you know, just getting to know them. And it was like we did something for them, so then they did something for us, but like times two. And it was like these giving wars. It was really cool. And then this, we were handing out sandwiches to homeless people. This is the feet washing and back massages, and this is also another door knocking thing. And then here's some stuff in the church. So these are some kids that were from the kids' English night, and that's kids' English night right there. But this is also the kids' day, so they were super fun. That's like at a youth event. I was at the beach at a youth event. This is Terza, the one that we studied Romans, and then this is the game night at Carlos's. That's some of our kids there, and then that's at the soccer thing, and that's us swimming with the sun. And then this is one of our last times we were there, because right when the soccer ministry started getting really big, unfortunately, that was when Gabe and I had to leave. But it was so special just seeing all of them mix and mingle together. So here's some really cool things new to the church family. This is Rodrigo. So it was cool because there's at least 8 teams before us. I might say that wrong, but that had been to Brazil at 8. And the team before us, they were right during COVID, so they used a lot of like online things to reach out to people. So he had been a part of this like English study they had going, and we started inviting them to the soccer thing and to youth events and stuff, and just started getting really close to him and spending a lot of time with him. And then one night, our coordinator, Hanyeti, just encouraged us, why don't you ask him to study, you know? And we got to start up a study with him, and Hanyeti kind of helped lead it, and Dave and I were in there. And the last time, right as we were leaving Brazil, Hanyeti messaged us, and he's like, hey, I want you guys to know, Rodrigo asked about baptism tonight, And then like a week later we saw he had been baptized, and now he's just like super active in the church down there, and it's really cool how just how it started from zero almost, or like that little seed from the team before us, and we gotta like help it blossom a little bit, and then now he's just like a big part of the church, and that's him right there. And we have a big pool in the back of the church, and then this is Lucas. So that dad and son I told you I met, he was the son, and I had been kind of like, it's a learning experience for me. I was really sad when we had to leave because of those guys. I was like, man, they're getting so invested, especially Lucas. And then when we leave, and the soccer ministry maybe dies, and then what's gonna, be connecting them? Who's gonna reach out and everything? And I don't want this to be for nothing. And then a long time later, I see on my story, like it was months and months. I'd always been worrying about it and praying about it. And I see that his sister's like, going to go see Lucas get baptized. And I was like I did a double mistake. Like I couldn't believe that was true. And we ended up calling him, like, you got baptized? And he's like, yeah, like I started studying with Adriano, and then just from there I decided to get baptized and everything, and now he's like really active there. And a lot of him and the other guys were very active in the youth events when we left. So I just learned that I was gone for the time he grew the most. So it was never me, it was always God, like the whole time, and I just didn't realize. And so when you leave places, it kind of gave me some peace. I'm like, okay, I was never the one making the growing happen, so it's okay that I have to leave now because I don't have to worry. So I was really special. Then we were back to Lubbock. So through that 6 months, we tried very, very hard to get our visas, and unfortunately, it still wasn't working. And we kind of came back to Lubbock in hopes that maybe something could happen. And in the meantime, I'm like, okay, what can we do? Well, we were with this AIM class in the beginnings and helping them grow a little bit, and I knew all their worries and stuff. And then now we got to be at the end of the time with them. One thing we got to do was Camp Adventure. So like the next day when we flew back into the States, we started that Camp Adventure. And that's a huge thing, especially for your youth back there. If you ever were interested, that AIM does. It's like a church camp kind of for a week, but it has this whole group of AIM, and it gives you just a wonderful experience, a time where like for us as AIMers and stuff, just to really hear kids out and their stories and just build them up as much as possible. Everyone's just striving to be closer to God, and just like the singing there is immaculate. Like it's just an absolutely incredible experience. And 70% of my AIM class had gone to Camp Adventure, so it proves that it's really powerful in like getting people to want to go to AIM. And then also there's a thing called East Coast Trip. So during your 8 months, you do a lot of traveling to go like encourage churches, or to, in this case, the East Coast Trip is kind of to get the word out about AIM in places that maybe don't hear about it a lot. And so we went to so many different churches where we'd sing with them, just meet the members, encourage them and stuff, and do like a flag presentation. So it's where we hold flags that have been hit from AIM and different places they're reaching out to, and you kind of stand around the whole church building and you're holding your flags, and it's really, really powerful because it's just showing you like, look, like there's still young people out here that are willing to go out and serve God in whatever way. Like they're brave enough, they're ready, and it's usually just really encouraging for people to see that. So this is just us having some fun with them on the trip. That was at Camp Adventure, and this is their final send-off. And I was like sitting right over here. I felt so proud of them because I knew how much they'd struggled and just encouraging them. And now they finally were making it, and they were officially going to get to go to the fields. Because sometimes people don't get to make it because AIM's very careful about who they send out, so that it gives you, the Church of Christ a good rep and stuff, and good things happen, not bad. So yeah, it was super cool. And then I ended up, so we weren't able to go to Brazil. Where were we gonna go? We had so many prayers going into it, like, hey, just send us where you need us, like if it's not Brazil, it's gonna be hard, but that's okay. you need us somewhere else more. And he ended up wanting us in Sulphur, Louisiana, at a very tiny church that was mostly elderly people that had about 3 youth, or I would say 4, but 3 of them were from the same family. And so it was tiny, but something special about them was that they are very big in supporting different like missionaries and mission groups, and they also do a lot with disaster relief. And so they're a tiny, tiny church doing huge things for God. And I always kind of thought, I'm like, I think God has sent us here just to give them this, they just deserve this help because of all the stuff they're doing, even though they're so tiny. And so I was really happy to help, be there and try and help them grow. So one thing with the disaster relief warehouse, what we would do is there's this huge warehouse that we'd get all kinds of appliances in. So we'd have like sofas and chairs and stoves and refrigerators, everything that you would need in a house. And we had it all there, and we'd get like semis come in, and we would help unload and like stack it and organize it for Friday. And when Friday came, people would pull up their trailers, and so people that have been living without washer and dryer, or sleeping on the ground, or like just going without huge things that we all might have and take for granted because of a disaster or something, we're getting to load all this stuff up for free for them that they get to take home, and then just kind of meeting them, maybe hearing a little bit about their story and stuff, and getting to just bless them that way was always super impactful. Every Friday we got to do that. And so then that church has been very heavily involved in that. Another thing was projects around the church building. So we just got to help them kind of revamp the church a little bit. It needed a lot of extra love and care a little bit. So we do maybe mowing and stuff, or weeding the garden, or like the flower beds. And we painted a lot for them and reorganized and got rid of stuff. And they had this courtyard that we got to kind of make look all cool, and set up a volleyball court thing, and just to really bring some life into it, and maybe have people using it more. And then we met with members, so same as Brazil, where it's just going over, and they make you a meal, and they have so many good stories, and you just listen, and you just bask in that, just having a great time with people. So, and one lady, she took us to go hold baby alligators, and they had amazing Cajun food and stuff. So it was always super fun doing that. And then there was a really cool lady named Anna who was from Brazil, and she had been in Louisiana for a long time and didn't really know much English. And so we got to go in and just instantly start talking with her. And she just felt so lonely. And she had just come to Christ not too long ago. But it was through Spanish, because our coordinator there, his name was Brian, and his wife's from Mexico, and they're both very fluent in Spanish. So they kind of would communicate with her that way. But she just still needed some growth. And so we were always talking about God with her, and just she was very passionate. And it was really cool just to be there for her. And then invest in the youth groups. So, like I said, it was just about 4, but it's more like 3 high schoolish age, middle school, high school. And they had a church camp. So there's a girl named Cassie. She was just like, you guys should come and counsel there. And I was like, okay, maybe. And it was kind of scary going, but it turned out to be really cool. I got to help counsel her. And so we instantly just made connections right off the bat when we got there, so that we could start from there. We know each other a little bit. They feel comfortable to do hanging out. And so we just kind of, anytime we were gonna go get some food, go watch a movie, go do something, we try and reach out to them. We did an escape room with Cassie one time in Dallas, and just all kinds of really fun things to just be there for them, because they had a lot to go through, and they had kind of no one around their age to lean on in that church. And so just getting to fill that role for them was really impactful. And also we would do individual studies. So Josie and I started studying with Cassie, and Gabe started studying with Adam, and a little bit with his older brother Malachi. But that proved to be really good. I'll tell you more about it in a second. Then game night. So it was kind of the same concept as the soccer game night, but this time we just did all kinds of crazy games, and we were hoping that it would bring people in, but we had just those 4 show up the first time, but we knew that we've experienced this before, it can still grow and stuff, and then the next time, 5 people, we had no idea, like, we never met or anything before, and I guess had been invited from different church members, just showed up, and so we had 9 people we were working with, and we're like, okay, like, we got a lot of people, this is really cool. And then it ended up growing to about 17 people while we're there, and so it was 4 from our own church, and the rest were literally from like just outside that had no connection. And so it was really, really fun. We would individually hang out with them. It was more than just we see them once a week on Thursday. We knew them personally, and we tried to just be there for them, maybe their bigger brother or bigger sister, you know, and someone that's spiritually encouraging them. And I started up a study with one of the girls who wasn't really going to church or anything. I just could tell when Gabe was like doing his lessons that she was very intrigued. So I ended up asking her, and she said yes. And that was super, like, it took her a long way. Like, it was really cool. And then Gabe got to study with her boyfriend and stuff.
Aren't you still studying with?
Yes, I am still studying with 2 of the girls from Louisiana. And so the March studies, basically it's a very, very special study, about 8 studies in total, that kind of tells you why you should even listen to these words, like why are they so powerful, how Jesus connects to you, how he can relate to you, and then just like what it would be like without God and Jesus coming, and then what it is like, and the hope and awesomeness that we have because Jesus has come and done what he has for us. And it just kind of takes you from A to Z, and it's super powerful. So we got to learn that study with our coordinator Brian, and then give it out to people. There was also a thing that was foreign teachers, so they came from like Spain and just all over, and they came and they had to get a car, they had to get a house, they had to do all this stuff and set up a classroom. And so our church, they just been doing this thing where they invited them just to welcome them to Louisiana. It wasn't like they had to, or there was a specific connection with the church. It was just like they knew that these 4 teachers were coming, so they wanted to invite, be like, hey, you've got a place if you ever need help, or you want like something, we're here for you. So we did this big thing. We met a bunch of people from all over, and I was able to relate to them, like, hey, like, I know what it's like being in a foreign country, you know, where you're having to start, everything's new. Like, it was so cool getting to talk to them. And we gave them like big baskets of some stuff that could help them. And we got to go to the schools and help them decorate their rooms, and just give them some ease because they had so much they had to do compared to other teachers. So we got to do that. And through that, we got one kid and his mom coming to the church, and then going to game night. And then English talks at a coffee shop. So Brian's wife, she is very passionate about just like kind of a Spanish ministry to people that maybe need to learn some more English, and she tries to bring the Bible to them. So she had us coming, just talking with them, and we met some more of like people and their kids through that to get those kids coming to our game night. And names, this is something I wanted to tell you about just because maybe it's something you could try. Our coordinator wanted us to give him 10 new names every week. So it kind of was like, you might pass a bunch of people in a day if you go to a few shops or something. There's like hundreds of people that you're passing by and you don't say one word to. So this specifically is a way to interact with those that are all around you, to actually see them. And the special thing about getting their names, and kind of maybe getting a couple things that you know about them, so that if you go back in, then if he wanted us to record too, like when we re-saw that person, so you can walk in and like, hey, so and so, and like having them just like maybe like surprised that, oh, you remember my name, like, and like you know a little bit, and you can ask him like, how's this going or whatever, and then instant connections building all around, and you're seeing people, you know, just to make them feel good, and then a way of evangelism to maybe bring them and invite them to stuff. And then our last thing that I thought was really cool in Louisiana, there was this Parents' Day out, so it was a one-day VBS. And like I said, tiny church, and that fourth person, I kept going like this. She's like 8 years old, and I was like, so we're preparing this big thing. It was the story of Joseph, and we were decorating the whole church, getting all ready. I'm like, we've got like one kid. Like, who's gonna come? Like, I was kind of concerned. I'm like, we're putting in a bunch of work. I hope some people show up. And we, like, us three were trying to do a skit for the story of Joseph, and I was in charge of games, and then like some of us were in charge of leading singing. And one thing with the skit too, we're like, okay, who are we gonna have act in the skit? We got two ladies to be Ishmaelites. It was so cute when they dressed up. But then we needed a bunch of brothers for Joseph, and we're like, where are we gonna get them? And we thought, what about our game night crew? Finally get them coming into our church a little bit, meeting some people. So we got them, and we just asked them to do the skit, but most of them all ended up staying to help with the whole VBS. And we got like beards on them, and it was just like so much fun. And so they got to help us with that and just make instant connections with some of our church members. And we had about 20 or 30 kids show up out of nowhere. And I'm like, once again, God just like doing good stuff for these people that are putting in the work, even if they don't have the people in their church, that somehow God brings them out, like it just from what they're doing. So just time and time again, I got proved wrong, and God taught me a lot through this experience. Here's some pictures before I forget. This is our first time we set up the game night sign. This is some of our game night crew with the mustaches and beards for the skit. This is Anna, the lady from Brazil, and this is Brian's wife. She was also a Zumba instructor. So we thought, oh, we should go meet some people in the area and do some Zumba, and that was really fun. That was at the camp. This is just helping with some like service project stuff with one of our members. She wanted like a pathway done. This is the big warehouse, and then this is us painting a little bit. That's where we were talking in English with some people and helping them grow in that. This is one of the rooms we were helping set up, and then this is at the warehouse where we're stacking like huge queen size mattresses and like pulling them up, and we're nearly to the top of the warehouse. So we did some crazy things in there. Ryan loved having young people that he could just do all kinds of stuff for. Here's different people from the game night. That's not everybody, but it's a good portion. So this is our first night. That was Cassie, and this is Evie, the one that's about 8 years old. And then there's the two other ones, boys right here. And then this is one of the guys that he was the son of a lady that was learning English with Brian's wife. And that's Pablo. He was the foreign teacher's kid. And Braden, he's just literally one of the ones that got invited in. We made a huge sign for the church so they could kind of see the fun that was going on the Thursday nights. This is at the kind of Parents' Day out thing. That's when we did an escape room. And this is this is Brian, our coordinator's son and wife. And that's another one, Catherine, that was coming. Lots of fun. And last people that got added to the family. So there's two at church camp. I got help be like, we were on the same sports team, him and I. And it was cool just seeing them making that decision. And then this is Cassie. So Josie and I had been studying with her, and she really wanted to go to AIM after we talked and stuff. I was so excited, but also just the fact that she made that decision, and just watching her grow in just a small time of 4 months in this summer, and just had that was really cool. And then Adam, he was special too because he's really made a good connection with Gabe. And he had been kind of off and on about maybe being baptized, maybe not. And I think just like us just being there for him and just like trying to boost him up and just being good friends with him made an impact and a difference on his heart. And he was ready to be baptized after he got to study with Gabe. And they had that happen. So it was really, really cool. Also, I want to mention that his grandpa had never really been on his grandmother's side, because that's at his grandparents' house. And the grandmother is very faithful and stuff, but the grandpa wasn't really involved in the church at all, didn't really have that faith. But this moment, he got to witness really like change something in his heart that day, and his grandmother had just kind of like been in tears and telling us like, thank you so much. Like, you don't know what you did all these years. He's never, had this change happen, and he saw something different that day. So it's cool that you get to do that. So some things I've learned. Everywhere is a mission field. Because in AIM, you're like, okay, this is my mission field. This is where I'm going. But that was not the case for me. And so it just helped me learn that even when I'm at home, it can be a mission field. And even if I'm alone and I don't have my teammates around me, it can still be a mission field everywhere it is. Be flexible, because the one in control knows best. Once again, like, I never knew the whole time I was in Brazil, or even before, that if I was going to stay or not. And that control aspect drove me nuts. But in the end, I'm standing here looking back and like, it was perfect. It was exactly how it should be. So he knew best the whole time, and I just kind of gotta let go and trust like that is gonna work out, because he proves me wrong every time. Investing in people is one of the most valuable things in ministry. I can see from my experience with my team and stuff that everywhere we went, that was what it was taking, was investing in them. More than just on a Sunday and sitting by him, but it was like taking that extra step really goes a long way. And then my strength comes from the Lord, because some days, whenever you're in a foreign country and you are just like, your brain is scrambled and you feel so tired and you have to lead an event, but every time you give me the energy and the will to be able to smile and have a good time with people every time. So I just think in that, it's like you're doing good things, God's going to give you the strength to keep doing them. So this verse, yet not my will, but yours be done. It was a verse I had before I even like went out to Brazil or knew anything that what would happen, basically. And I think it's kind of funny how that turned out, but it's just kind of the whole time like, it's not truly in my hands, so just take me where you want me to go. So yeah, this is my team, by the way. That's Josie, Adam, Grace, Gabe, and me. And these two are still in Brazil. Josie she ended up not being able to get back, so she helped Gabe and I in Louisiana. So that was us three, and they're still doing mission work in Brazil. So thank you so much. Do you have any questions for me?
You keep talking about snacks in Brazil. Okay,
Really?
what are we talking different than here?
They have a lot of different foods for sure. They are very healthy. They got lots of different fruits. I can't really think of the names right now. They also have things like their pão de queijo and different things like their, or they have coxinas. They're like this like kind of deep fried thing that maybe it's potato and it's shredded chicken or different things filled with that, or different cakes, and their cheeses is a different texture. Like a lot of things they have there, or they do things with tapioca. I don't know. Acai, I don't know if you've ever heard of that. I feel like if you've had it in Brazil, it's never going to be the same if you have it here, because it's delicious. It's kind of like ice cream, but it's really healthy version. It's like this frozen berry that's blended and all kinds of fruit on top of it, and it's like whatever sauces you want. But I don't know if that answers the question.
What's next? Do you have something lined up to do?
Well, so I'm completely finished with my time, because the minimum requirement is about 14 months, so I've done that. And so that's where I'm kind of like, I'm done. But I'm helping, I'm working at a coffee shop in Oklahoma right now and trying to make some money and hoping to see where that God wants me next. I don't know if it'll take me back to the mission field ever, or if I'll go do some college or something.
She's gonna help with her new niece and nephew that are doing some
Yeah.
things.
I just wanted to mention something you said I thought was really profound. You were talking when you were in Brazil that you were doing a study with, maybe with someone with a Catholic background, I'm not really sure, but you found something that you could both agree on, and you'd mentioned that in your thing. I just thought that was really profound. You know, it's, sometimes you can be kind of combative, you know, and things maybe they think a little differently, but you found that common ground with somebody, and you do, you know, just to me it really struck home for your mission work. You know, so.
Yes.
Very impressed.
Thank you. That is something that is just like when you see it, you can like encourage something good in somebody and like respect something that like their passion or something. Like we went to a Catholic mass once for a girl and we were like, we've never gone, and we were able to just appreciate the cool things about it. And then she went to our church for the next Sunday and was able to appreciate our stuff. And it's like things like that that can like just kind of blowing out those like lines and walls we build up.
I had to smile as I listened to you because I never heard you say, I can't. I work in a school with middle schoolers and they say, I can't. So I put my hands over my ears and what? Or I might go, oh, my heart. And so I appreciate your positiveness. I appreciate that God is using you. You may have, it broke your heart when you left Brazil. But look what God did with you in all these other places. Because I appreciate the fact that you're a good example of that. God is not done with us yet.
For sure. All right. Oh, yeah.
I just want to recognize, how old were you when you came to Sled?
First grade.
Yeah, first grade, 8 years old.
No.
7.
7 maybe.
And how old are you? How old are you now?
21.
21.
14.
And in such a short time, the growth that I see in you, and that is due partly with your upbringing, but you were able to explore and to leave the home and to go somewhere and to grow even more in the Lord, to witness and open the doors and not be afraid. And I just want to recognize and thank you for that, for you.
Thank you.
And I know your
Also-
parents are proud of you for that.
Yeah, and you guys, if it weren't for you helping me get there, because you're a part of the mission work too. All those people that got brought to the Lord and heard more is also because of your help. So, yeah, that's right.
Even though your time with AIM may be at an end, all of the skills and things and all of the experiences that you gained, and now here you stand before us, inspiring all of us to realize we all live in a mission field all the time, and we just have to have our eyes open and be flexible, because it is the Lord's plan, and we have to be looking for where He places us and what He wants us to do. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Daycee.
Thank you.
Thank you.